What's happening, everybody? On today's show, a health scare from Mississippi State head coach Mike Leach. We'll get you caught up with the latest there. Stetson Bennett finishes fourth in the Heisman voting over the weekend as USC's Caleb Williams takes home the hardware, but fans say Hendon Hooker should have been there. And the latest on guys declaring for the draft, hitting the transfer portal, coaching moves, and much more. Locked on SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. LinkedIn Jobs, helping you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Remember, Locked On SEC is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube and at LockedOnSEC.com. All right, we got plenty to get into. We'll be going around the conference all episode. We got so much to catch up on. Let's do it. Let's go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Takes the handoff. What a catch!
Around the conference.
And we start with not great news coming out Sunday afternoon as Mike Leach was taken to the hospital in Jackson, Mississippi, following what the school called a personal health issue. Mississippi State announced that Bulldog defensive coordinator Zach Arnett would take over immediately, overseeing the football team in Mike Leach's absence. Now, the school released the following statement on Sunday. They said, Mississippi State University head football coach Mike Leach had a personal health issue at his home earlier today. That was Sunday. They said that issue led to a decision to transfer him to the University of Mississippi Medical Center in Jackson by ambulance. The extent of information that the school has available regarding Coach Leach's condition, and the university will make no other comment at this time other than to say that the thoughts and prayers of the school are with Mike and Sharon and their family. Now, the school president and interim athletic directors have conferred, and the decision was made to place Zach Arnett in charge of the football team. Practice for the ReliaQuest Bowl and recruiting operations will continue as normal. Mississippi State says they will issue more information via social media when it becomes available. Mike Leach, 61 years old, in his third season as State's head coach. The Bulldogs ended the regular season a couple of weeks ago with that Egg Bowl win over Ole Miss, and they're set to take on Illinois in that ReliaQuest Bowl in Tampa on January 2nd. So we're wishing Coach Leach the best of luck. Again, we don't have much more information at this time as of recording. Probably by the time you're listening to this, maybe you'll have more information released. But did see some people, again, trust the message boards as you will, but some people pointing out there that this is serious and that Coach Leach really needs a lot of thoughts and prayers from folks out there. So we will keep up to date on this. And again, we wish Coach Mike Leach the best of luck. Definitely hoping he can come back sooner rather than later, and everything will check out with his health. But nonetheless, that's where we are right now. And, I don't know. I don't know if he would rush this thing, even if he's released from the hospital sometime soon, and say, let me hurry back to the coaching desk. Maybe do better just taking time off if everything checks out and is good to go. But we'll keep you up to date right here on Locked On SEC. But never good to have one of your head coaches in the SEC rush to the hospital with a medical emergency. But again, thoughts and prayers to Mike Leach over and those fans over at Mississippi State. On a lighter note, the Heisman Trophy was handed out on Saturday night. Stetson Bennett, Georgia star quarterback, led the Bulldog offense to an undefeated season, the number one seed in the college football playoff. Stetson finished fourth in Heisman voting. The winner was USC's Caleb Williams. TCU's Max Duggan finished second, while Ohio State's C.J. Stroud came in third. Bennett had a very nice season, and a lot of people kind of, let's say, disagreed with Stetson Bennett being a finalist. A lot of people felt Hendon Hooker or Michigan running back Blake Corum deserved the spot in there. I argued should have been Hooker and Bennett. Why not have both of them in there? But regardless, it's been a nice season for Stetson Bennett. His best game of the year came in that opening win against Oregon, where he threw for a season-high 368 yards and then capped it off with 4 touchdown passes against LSU in a 20-point victory in the SEC championship. Now, Saturday night at the Heisman ceremony, Georgia head coach Kirby Smart talked about Stetson Bennett moving from a walk-on in the SEC to now standing as a Heisman finalist. During the TV broadcast, Kirby said, "We kept thinking he wasn't good enough, and he kept proving us wrong over and over and over again." Of course, Georgia and Ohio State will face off on New Year's Eve in the college football playoff semifinal. CJ Stroud, also the Heisman finalist, he was asked about Georgia during his trip for the Heisman. He said, "Yeah, I've been watching a lot of film on them. I mean, they're a great, great team, both on offense, defense, and special teams. They do a lot of good things. They know what they want to do. They know their weaknesses, and they protect those really well. I definitely think they have very little to no weaknesses, so I'm very excited going ahead and playing Georgia." Again, we'll see if Georgia can take care of business against Ohio State here in a couple of weeks. I did mention Hendon Hooker. A lot of people thought he should have been there. He did not get an invite to New York, but he did have a fantastic season, and he was named the SEC Player of the Year. Stetson Bennett, like we said, was named the finalist, but Hendon Hooker got the fan vote. Caleb Williams won the trophy. Hendon Hooker won the fan vote from ESPN in the Heisman voting. So he did finish 5th overall in the Heisman voting. Why couldn't he go to New York? It just doesn't make any sense why they couldn't just add him to the ballot and have a handful of guys there in New York. But nonetheless, best of luck to Hendon Hooker as he rehabs from his injury and is heading off to the NFL. Some other coaching news around the conference. Arkansas has a defensive coordinator opening to fill after Barry Odom's departure as he left to go be the UNLV head coach. Now, as reported over the weekend, Sam Pittman was looking to a former Big 12 coordinator in Baylor DC Rob Roberts, and it was even, seeming like Arkansas was moving into that direction. However, on Sunday night, news broke that Roberts is reportedly going to be Auburn's new defensive coordinator. Roberts is 55, been in coaching since 1990, and has coached at a lot of different stops, but most recently over at Baylor under Dave Aranda. And Baylor 6-6 this past season. They will face Air Force in the Armed Forces Bowl. But Ron Roberts sounds like he will go to Auburn to coach under Hugh Freeze as his new defensive coordinator. So see where Arkansas heads in filling their DC position. Again, Barry Odom, like we said, heading to UNLV. He's expected to take one of the key defensive coaches from Arkansas with him. He is targeting linebackers coach Michael Scherer as the 29-year-old former Mizzou star linebacker, played for and coached for Odom, was in his 2nd season as linebackers coach. And as we know, some great production at that linebacker spot the last couple of years. Grant Morgan, Bumper Poole, the list goes on and on there. But Michael Scherer reportedly heading to UNLV to coach with Barry Odom. And some good news for Kentucky fans as the news broke on Friday that Liam Coen reportedly headed back to Kentucky. Chris Mortensen of ESPN sharing that news on Friday that Coen, who was with the Rams, then was the OC with Kentucky last year, then went back to the Los Angeles Rams this year, reportedly will head back to Kentucky once this season ends. Rich Scangarello, who Kentucky hired this past season, was fired in late November as their offense struggled down the stretch. But good news there for Wildcats fans. On Sunday, Rams coach Sean McVay was asked about the report. He said, "We've talked about that being a possibility. I don't think anything's official yet, but if that's the direction that Liam wants to go, he'll do a great job there just like he did previously." Now, for Kentucky in their bowl game, it's going to get a little ugly. Will Levis has already opted out to prepare for the draft. On Thursday, running back Chris Rodriguez announced he was opting out of the bowl game. As it stands right now, the Music City Bowl will make history with the lowest point total college football has seen. The over-under sitting at 31.5 at most sports books. One report out there had it at 30. So Iowa, Kentucky, not going to score a lot of points, not going to be lighting up the scoreboard. So jump on that if you will. And check out our friends at Bet Online. Thank you guys again for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we'll continue to get you caught up with the latest news around the conference. We got some news regarding the transfer portal and some good news for some SEC teams out there. So we'll get to that in just a second. But first, this episode is presented by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire could feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. They help you find the right people for your team faster and for free. They offer simple tools like screening questions, making it easy for you to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize those who you would like to interview and hire. We're about to start the 2023 hiring year, and a lot of people are going to be looking to add to their staffs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Go post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And it is why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Also, good to remind you guys that we are a couple weeks away from the Texas Bowl. And if you're an Ole Miss fan or just an SEC fan in general, and you live in the great state of Texas or near the Houston area, Houston's biggest college football event is returning. December 28th, the Texas Tech Red Raiders taking on Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels in the Tax Act Texas Bowl. Don't miss out on your chance to be part of the passion, the pageantry, and the fun as college football season draws to a close at NRG Stadium down in Houston. Tickets, suites, and game day experiences are on sale now at Ticketmaster and at taxacttexasbowl.com. That's taxacttexasbowl.com. If you're looking for something the whole family can enjoy during the holiday break, there's no better way to have fun this holiday season with tickets starting as low as just $25. Visit taxacttexasbowl.com. Get your tickets and all the details for a full lineup of bowl week events, including concerts, team experiences, and more. I think they've done rodeos in the past with the players, all kinds of cool stuff. Head to taxacttexasbowl.com. It's the Red Raiders versus the Ole Miss Rebels to close out the college football season in Houston. Do not miss it. All right, let's jump back into it. We got plenty to discuss as we continue going on around the conference. And again, the transfer portal heating up and a lot of guys jumping everywhere. And so we'll jump back into it. And good news for Mizzou fans, as former Oklahoma wide receiver Theo Wease Jr. is headed to Missouri. He announced on Sunday he is committed to Missouri after he previously entered the transfer portal. He ended last season with the Sooners with 19 catches for 378 yards and 4 touchdowns in 11 games, averaged close to 20 yards per reception over 3 seasons there, 64 catches, over 1,000 yards, and 10 touchdowns in 28 games played. He will have 2 seasons of eligibility remaining after missing the entire 2021 season with an injury. He's a former 5-star recruit. We know Dominic Lovett entered the transfer portal, so as we wait to see where Dominic Lovett ends up, look, they're doing a great job there at Mizzou to replace him, and Theo Wease Jr. going to replace Dominic Lovett there on Eli Drinkowitz's staff, wide receiver, which already includes the 5-star from this past season, Luther Burden, who just finished his freshman year. So Luther Burden, Theo Wease, now Brady Cook. Got to be very happy. You wonder if Eli Drinkwitz starts eyeing that transfer portal again. Remember, he almost got JT Daniels last year before Daniels left Georgia and ended up going to West Virginia. Maybe they flirt with JT Daniels again. We will see. But nonetheless, big boost there for the Mizzou Tigers wide receiving core heading into next year. Another boost, the Florida defensive line. The Florida Gators have had tons of guys jumping into the portal the last couple of weeks. I think I've counted over 20. But some good news. Now, not just guys going out, but a guy coming in as Caleb Banks, a member of the Louisville Cardinals, announced that he is heading to Gainesville with Scott Satterfield leaving Louisville for Cincinnati. Banks will also make a change. On Sunday afternoon, he announced on Twitter he's committing to Coach Billy Napier and the Florida Gators for the 2023 season. He appeared in 6 games for the Cardinals last year, had 2 tackles and a sack. Also had a forced fumble. He was a 3-star prospect in the 2021 class. So we'll see if Caleb Banks, what he can do adding to that Gator defensive rotation on that D-line. Florida also one of the guys that they lost, Avery Helm, third-year defensive back, looking to finish his college career elsewhere. He's in the transfer portal. On Saturday, Helm revealed he was visiting Mizzou. So he's a four-star prospect out of the 2020 class, out of the state of Texas, chose Florida over scholarship offers from tons of different teams. But that would be interesting if Avery Helm went from Florida to Mizzou. See what happens there. Jacoby Criswell, quarterback at North Carolina. He announced on Saturday he was entering the transfer portal, and he will continue his college football career at Arkansas. He was a four-star recruit in the 2020 class, considered the Arkansas Razorbacks back then, but spent 3 seasons in North Carolina with the Tar Heels, made 14 appearances, applied his red shirt and the COVID waiver in 2020. Reports say he will have 3 seasons of eligibility remaining, but in his college career, threw for 204 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Also rushed 20 times for 133 yards and a touchdown. So we'll see Jacoby Criswell. We know that he won't be the starter next year with KJ Jefferson back, but adding some depth to that quarterback room for the Razorbacks. In addition, on Sunday, the Razorbacks found out that Texas A&M Commerce wide receiver Andrew Armstrong announced his commitment to Arkansas. He had 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns this past year. So Andrew Armstrong heading to Fayetteville to go play for the Razorbacks. So another big addition there. In coaching news, Josh Garrison is Ole Miss's new offensive line coach. Lane Kiffin announced on Sunday, also giving him the title of run game coordinator. Garrison spent the last 4 seasons at NC State, has over 15 years of coaching experience. He will replace Jake Thornton, who left for a position on the new Auburn staff. And a little bit of a reunion. Garrison spent the 2018 season as run game coordinator and O-line coach for Lane Kiffin at Florida Atlantic. Garrison also coordinated the run game and offensive line at UNLV prior years. So welcome to Oxford, Josh Garrison. In some news out on the gridiron of guys declaring for the draft, BJ Ojulari made it official. The LSU defensive end declared for the NFL draft after 3 seasons with the Tigers. Shared a lengthy farewell note on his social media, recognized LSU coaches, trainers, nutritionists, and said, "Thank you to Baton Rouge for embracing a Georgia boy like I was one of your own." Over the last 3 seasons, Ojulari played in 34 games, made 24 starts, and was SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week twice in his first 2 seasons. He's getting some buzz as possibly sneaking into the first round of next year's draft. So we'll see. Best of luck to BJ Ojulari. And over at Alabama, kicker Will Reichard, leaving Alabama after 4 seasons. He had the option to play 1 more year with the COVID waiver, but the Reese's Senior Bowl revealed that Reichard has accepted an invitation to participate in the All-Star game. He will depart Alabama as the program's all-time leader for career points with 417, 61 field goals, and 234 made extra points. He ranks 4th all-time among Crimson Tide kickers in field goals with 61. And some good news for Alabama as well over the weekend. I saw wide receiver Jermaine Burton said he is planning to return to the Tide for his senior season. Had almost 600 yards and 6 touchdowns on 37 catches this year. All right, thank you guys again for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, more news around the transfer portal. It's just loaded with information coming out the last few days. So we'll get to that in just a second. But this episode is brought to you by our friends over at Simply Safe. At Locked On SEC, we believe home should be where you and your family feel safest, especially over the holidays. And this season, you can give yourself and your family the gift of peace and protection with the #1 rated home security system, Simply Safe. And right now, Simply Safe is offering our listeners 40% off a new security system. You don't want to put this off. Great, tons of great things to take advantage of with Simply Safe. They were named the best home security system of 2022 by U.S. News and World Report. That was the 3rd year in a row. In an emergency, they offer 24/7 professional monitoring agents using that Fast Protect technology exclusively from Simply Safe to capture critical evidence and verify a threat is real, so you can get higher priority police response. They've got the app, which is very easy to use. You can arm or disarm your system, unlock it for a guest, access your cameras anytime, anywhere. Don't miss out on your chance to save big on our favorite security system at Simply Safe. That's SIMPLI Safe. You can get 40% off any new system at simplysafe.com/lockedoncollege today. That's simplysafe.com/lockedoncollege. There is no safe like Simply Safe. All right, one more segment here on Locked On SEC. And again, thank you guys for checking us out. Been a busy weekend coming out of the SEC. We're going to get more into some college hoops talk as the weeks go along. We're still going to be covering this transfer portal like crazy and all the bowl season as well. But did want to give a shout out to the Alabama Crimson Tide basketball team for taking down the #1 team again in the Houston Cougars over in Houston over the weekend. So congrats to Nate Oates and his staff. All right, let's get back into it with some college football, SEC nuggets, and Florida. We now got quarterback Jack Miller to transfer in from Ohio State last offseason. Sounds like we'll see him in their bowl game coming up this weekend. But Billy Napier and his staff looking around to add to their quarterback room as Anthony Richardson, we know, is heading off to the NFL draft. And on Sunday morning, it was reported that Wisconsin transfer quarterback Graham Mertz was visiting Gainesville. There was some talk a couple of weeks ago that maybe Kentucky would be eyeing him, but Mertz, plenty of experience coming over from the Badgers, been a starter at Wisconsin the last couple of seasons. This year threw for 2,100 yards, 19 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, also had 2 scores as a runner. So we will see where Graham Mertz ends up. It sounds like got some offers out there from Georgia, or rather from Kentucky and from Florida. So Graham Mertz sounding like he may be headed to the SEC somewhere. Perhaps my favorite coaching rumor came out on Friday afternoon. If you guys missed this, there was a report that Missouri State head coach Bobby Petrino had emerged as a candidate for the Texas A&M offensive coordinator search. He was expected to interview with the Aggies sometime over the weekend. If that happens, come on, man. The SEC, it just makes it that much more fun if Bobby Petrino comes back and is calling plays under Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M. Please make this happen. We'll keep you up to date on the latest there. And speaking of Texas A&M, Deion Sanders wasting no time in building up his staff over at Colorado. He's hitting the transfer portal and recruiting trails. On Sunday, it was reported Texas A&M defensive analyst Nick Williams, former defensive back at Georgia, he is joining Coach Prime's staff. Williams shared a note on Twitter thanking Jimbo Fisher and the Aggies. He worked as a grad assistant at Georgia before joining Jimbo's staff. Now he'll head off to Colorado. Multiple reports report that LSU's Corey Phillips, who is associate director of player personnel, reports say he's leaving LSU to join Deion's staff. Prior to joining LSU, he was the director of scouting at NC State. And then Matt Zenitz of On3 Sports reporting that Darius Darden-Box is leaving Vanderbilt for a recruiting role on Deion's staff at Colorado. So Deion coming to the SEC to get some guys on his staff. Can't blame him. He knows where the best are. In recruiting news, a 3-star cornerback out of Georgia by the name of Colton Hood announced on Sunday he is committed to Hugh Freeze and the Auburn Tigers. Hood was recruited by Zach Etheridge and Wesley McGriff, rated the number 60 corner in the country and the number 56 player in the state of Georgia. So congrats to him. Tyler Johnson, a big 6'6", 300-pound offensive tackle out of Louisiana, who had been committed to Texas Tech on Sunday morning, flipped his commitment to Hugh Freeze and the Auburn Tigers. He is the number 59 offensive tackle in the class of 2023, the number 29 overall recruit from Louisiana. Auburn now has 11 players in their class, if I count that right. Actually, Hood may be the 12th. But you can keep up to date with that. Hugh Freeze is going to start adding guys like crazy to this recruiting class, hitting the ground running. And some news over at Mississippi State as they added an offensive lineman over the weekend. Amari Smith announced on Saturday he is committing to the Bulldogs. 6'7" lineman out of Brookhaven High School in Mississippi. Chose the Bulldogs over offers from Ole Miss and others. He's their 21st commit for the 2023 class. Number 55 offensive lineman in the country. Little nugget from over at Tennessee. Their offensive analyst, Jack Taylor, is set to depart along with Alex Golish. He will go join his staff as Golish, the former offense coordinator at Tennessee, will be the new head coach at South Florida. Taylor will serve as USF's tight ends coach. And just a couple more notes from the transfer portal, more guys hitting the portal. Wide receiver from Texas A&M, Devin Price, announced over the weekend he is entering the transfer portal. 3 seasons in College Station, will have 2 years of eligibility remaining. And over at Vanderbilt, Malik Langham announced he has entered the transfer portal. Veteran defensive player, began his career at Florida, played in all 12 games this year at Vandy, starting in 8, made 13 tackles, including a season best 4 tackles against Georgia. He was a 4-star prospect, the number 14 strong side defensive end in the nation coming out in his recruiting class. Thank you guys again for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Oh, and a little breaking news nugget. Another transfer portal update. Alabama transfer Trayshawn Holden. He is heading to the Oregon Ducks. So Dan Lanning and his staff, big time get for them. We had heard last week that Trayshawn Holden was visiting Oregon. I believe that was Thursday or Friday. And now officially announced Trayshawn Holden will head to Oregon. Former 4-star recruit, had 6 touchdowns this past year for the Tide. So best of luck to Trayshawn Holden heading out west to go play for the Oregon Ducks. There you have it. That is the latest going on around the conference. We got breaking news while we're taping the show. All right. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. For your next listen, go check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. Keep it locked right here. We'll be back tomorrow talking all things Southeastern Conference football.